to the first episode of Down the Rabbit Hole, your easy to understand podcast on the blockchain and beyond. My name is Tim Lea, and thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the ever-evolving and sometimes elusive world of the blockchain. On our journey, I want to help you discover and navigate this uncharted landscape that is pumped full of new opportunities. Like you, I'm curious about where the blockchain and other technologies might take us, not only as business people, but also as human beings. Dramatic changes are on their way, which will not only disrupt what we know, but also what we don't. So why not grab that coffee and grab hold of new ideas that will open your mind to possibilities as we head down the rabbit hole. Nothing in the Down the Rabbit Hole podcast should be considered as investment or legal advice. The blockchain and cryptocurrency markets globally are unregulated, high risk, and constantly changing. You're advised to seek professional guidance before contemplating any opportunities within the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. In this first introductory episode, which is going to be shorter than most of the podcast episodes, I just want to share with you a little bit about what the Down the Rabbit Hole podcast is all about, why I decided to set it up, a little about me and my experience and how this is going to help you, and how each episode will work within a whole season structure that I'll talk about a bit later, and equally how you can get involved. The Down the Rabbit Hole podcast is all about sharing information. It's all about sharing ideas from people within the blockchain space, because the blockchain space is moving so quickly and the cryptocurrency space is just changing and evolving. You know, we had the boom and the bust in 2017 and 18, continuing to 18. And then we've got this new wave coming through towards Q2 next year of security tokens. And it's really about trying to explore what the blockchain is all about in as plain English as possible. My background is very much from a commercial perspective, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I guess in some ways I view myself as a bit of a translator, that I've been involved in tech. I got involved entrepreneurially with the beginning of the internet and seeing it go right through its growth phase. And where the blockchain is right now is very, very similar to where the internet was in 1995. And so Down the Rabbit Hole as a podcast is designed to make it easier to understand what is going on, what the power is in this technology, how it's being used, the challenges and the opportunities. So it's an exciting time to be in this space, but there are challenges, and it's about trying to give you a balanced view on what's going on so you can make up your own mind. Is this something that you want to explore further? Because I think it's something that we're at the beginning of a massive wave of change, very similar to when the internet was in 1995. So I guess really this sort of gives an idea of what the podcast is about and why I decided to set it up. And I guess the next area I want to sort of just highlight to you is how the series has been designed. Because fundamentally, I have been in the space for about 4 years. And what I'm seeing, especially in 2018, is how the blockchain is beginning to decouple from cryptocurrencies themselves. And it's very much talking to corporates around the globe, talking to people involved in the cryptocurrency space, just getting a feel for how a lot of wind has been taken out of the market in 2018, and it's made people question what the true value of cryptocurrencies really are. Because at talks, on panels, at conferences, executive briefings, all this type of thing, I often ask the question, how many people have Bitcoin, number one? And loads of hands go up. I then ask a follow-up question, which is, how many of you own cryptocurrency tokens? For example, Ethereum or Factom or EOS or whatever it might be. And then I have a follow-up question. How many of you are using those tokens that you have bought for the purpose for which they were designed? And almost all the hands go down, except those that maybe have Bitcoin or Ethereum, who are using Bitcoin to make some sort of purchase for buying services, and Ethereum to buy into initial coin offerings, that type of thing. And so it makes me think that the reality of so many cryptocurrencies is that they were a speculative play. Now, that's not perfect by any means. I mean, there are some great ideas and great technologies out there, but the real reason why most people bought cryptocurrencies was because of the speculative effect, in my opinion. And So when the market price of those currencies has actually fallen, as we've seen during 2018, a lot of people have said, well, hang on a second, where's the true value in these currencies? Are the tokens being used? Are the platforms being built? All these type of questions. And when you talk to corporates, they're sort of looking and saying, well, hang on a second, this underlying blockchain tech is fantastic, but we don't really want to have a decentralized structure where people on the actual network that is being set up are not known to the corporate. And a particular case in mind comes to mind. Going back in June 2016, I chaired part of a conference in Melbourne, Australia, and one of the banks made a very, very valid observations where one of the representatives of the bank said, in our blockchain structures, we want to have a private blockchain because each participant in the network falls into this framework. And that framework was, I know you, you know me, and I know that you know me. And in that way, what we've actually got is banks, financial institutions, and large corporates think in the same way. They know who's on their network. They don't want to have Stan Stanislavski out of Ukraine or Russia or wherever it might be that they know nothing about, especially in this world, in the financial institutions where it's compliance, it's regulation, it's all these types of things, that if the banks get it wrong, they get fined and they may lose their banking license. And so what's happening is there's this decoupling of blockchain from cryptocurrencies in terms of the blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. And the key thing that comes to mind is that cryptocurrencies need blockchain, but blockchain doesn't need cryptocurrencies. And we're beginning to see that decoupling. And so very much the first season of 10 episodes is based around that theme and looking at it from different angles because, you know, you've got the institutional investors, you've got bankers, you've got government parties, you've got a whole variety of different stakeholders in this industry. And it's about trying to get different angles on that theme. That's how I'm structuring the Down the Rabbit Hole podcast into seasons of 10 episodes based around a theme. The next season will be based around security tokens and also sovereign currencies, because that's going to be an interesting area that's beginning to get some traction as well. So why should you actually listen to me? I mean, what's my experience? I mean, my journey has been quite an eclectic one, if I'm truthful. Professionally, I've been involved in corporate finance and big ticket lending. I've worked for companies like HSBC, Lloyds Bank, GE Commercial Finance in their acquisition finance area. And very much, having been in that space, I have a certain lens about how corporates view things. On the other side, on February the 12th, 1995 at 2:16 p.m. in the afternoon, I do remember it that cathartically, I came across the internet. This is where I'm originally from, Brighton in the UK. And I was introduced to a small internet provider that was the second one in the UK. And I went in on February the 12th, 1995 at 2:16 p.m. in the afternoon. And I was introduced to the internet for the first time. And you know what it's like. If you remember those times, I mean, those of you who've got enough grey hairs like I have will remember it. But as we connected to the internet via, number one, a 14 4K modem. So there was this high-pitched shrill connecting us. And then on this concrete block they called a monitor, I saw images from an art gallery that was 10 kilometers away in a place called New Haven. And when I saw these paintings coming up one line at a time, it just blew my mind. I said, I have got to be in this industry because that art gallery could have been in Sydney, it could have been in Seoul, it could have been in LA, it could have been anywhere in the world. And that just blew my mind. So we set up an internet cafe, bar and restaurant. And from that, we developed courses for corporates to help them understand what the internet was all about, how it could actually help them in solving the problems that they were facing. And so having been through that entrepreneurial experience, together with going through the entire wave of the internet, I'm seeing such a repeat of history. And as Mark Twain always said, or he said in one of his quotations, that history doesn't repeat itself, but it tends to rhyme. And so we're seeing the blockchain right now as being like the internet was in 1995. And when it comes to the blockchain, I first got involved actually in 2011 when I started to look at Bitcoin. And I looked at Bitcoin, and I'll be honest, I looked at it and I thought, this is way too geeky. This is just not going to go anywhere. And of course, that was in 2011. And yes, I was wrong at that particular time with the benefit of hindsight. And I didn't invest. I wish I had. I would be probably enjoying some pina colada in some exotic tropical island somewhere exciting. But I didn't get involved. But in 2014, entrepreneurially, I wrote and directed a feature film and co-produced it with two others. And we had 116 people involved in the project. And the project did well in the international film festivals. We won several awards, got nominated for 12, won 6. And we got pirated. Not to the same level as Hollywood movies. I'd be lying to say that. But we still got people stealing our content. This was just insane because people were eating our breakfast. Now, I know that's the way that things happen, but it's still, when you're on the other side of that lens and you see people eating your own breakfast, you say, how do we stop this? Can we do anything? And somebody said to me, why don't you have a look at the blockchain technology underneath Bitcoin? So that's when I started going down the rabbit hole. And I first started looking at all these videos online. And there were some incredible brains that put out these videos. But this was in January, February 2015. And it was very much, there were incredible minds, but who just could not communicate. And the technology is complex. It is deep. It does have its nuances. But what I sort of looked at was, well, during the internet time, we actually created these courses to help companies get online, to understand what the technology can do. How about I actually explore how to do the same with the blockchain tech? So I immersed myself. And I do remember often hearing people say, once you go down the blockchain rabbit hole, you never come back. And it's very, very true. Once you actually go down, you realize that there's this landscape, a greenfield landscape of opportunity. And it's very much, I kept on thinking about this idea of people saying, once you go down the blockchain rabbit hole, and it's almost like Alice in Wonderland from Lewis Carroll's book in the 19th century, where Alice went down the rabbit hole and she came across Wonderland, full of characters, full of, just this mystical world of just craziness and bizarreness, but just a landscape of stuff she'd never seen before. And that's exactly what happens down the rabbit hole when you go down the blockchain rabbit hole. So I decided to immerse myself going down this rabbit hole. And then I wrote a book called Down the Rabbit Hole, Discover the Power of the Blockchain, explaining things in plain English, because having seen all these complex videos, having listened to a lot of people talking, having met a lot of incredibly smart people, I've met more PhDs in this space than I've met at any time in my life. But unfortunately, whilst the greatest brains on the planet are undoubtedly involved in this space, so often a lot of them find it very, very hard to communicate. And that's not me being critical, that's just an observation. And so I made it my mission to really make this technology as easy as possible for people. And once I wrote the book and started getting some good feedback and that type of thing, I started getting invited to conferences, started doing executive briefings, workshops, masterclasses, getting invited to speak at conferences, on panels and this type of thing. And what it means is that I've got this lens that is not only from people within Australia, but it's also worldwide, just getting a feel for what's going on, trying to understand it, trying to make sense of it, trying to see where the opportunities are, and provide guidance and appropriate advice for a number of those startups. And equally, during 2017, that was a bit of a crazy year, but, I actively got involved in investing in ICOs, getting actively involved in advising a number of ICOs, and indeed undertaking one with Veredictum, which is the company that we set up. We had a team of around 8 people working on the project at the time when we did the ICO, but halfway through our ICO, China banned ICOs overnight. And I remember being in Singapore airport and getting a text from a buddy of mine. I just remember just the blood draining from my face and just saying, oh, what the heck is going on here? And it's, we were in discussions with a number of investors who were very interested in getting involved. We were in discussions with a major platform that was talking about taking an awful lot of our tokens, and this was based in China. So just everything just fell apart, which was, it's a pain, but that's just the way it was. We had to return all the money that we actually raised because we didn't actually hit our minimum threshold. But what I saw from that was the power of ICOs, the power of global democratic capital coming in where people would send you Ethereum, for example, one of the cryptocurrency coins, and it would be cleared in around 3 minutes. You didn't have the bank fees of $20-$50 to transfer international funds. You didn't have the exchange rates of 2.5% to 4% below market rates. And this has just exploded my mind, especially as we come into security tokens. So what it means is, for you as an audience, I'm trying to make sense of it all because I'm naturally curious. I'm passionate about this space, but I don't know everything. And I recognize I don't know everything, but I'm so keen to open my eyes to the opportunities, to what people are doing, the challenges they're facing, because this technology is transformatory. But I think one of the key things that's coming out of all this is increasingly people are beginning to recognize that this technology is an enabling technology rather than being a super sexy technology. And I do remember Steve Jobs once said, technology should be either beautiful or invisible. And I think what we're going to see is the blockchain be invisible and enabling lots of opportunities to actually happen. So it means that, that we have to get underneath the hood a bit. We have to actually explore what's going on. And that's why in the majority of episodes, I'm interviewing people from the coalface, from people who are working with the technology, from institutional investors that are looking at the cryptocurrency space and where it's heading, looking at security tokens, from regulators, from people linked into to artificial intelligence, to bring together experience from the marketplace of how people are trying to sell this technology. What are the challenges? Are people wanting to buy cryptocurrency to get involved? I mean, all these types of issues that will ultimately work around a core theme. As I said earlier on, the first season is going to have the theme of the blockchain is decoupling from cryptocurrencies, and just to get different angles on that particular side. So essentially, I just wanted to really just give you a bit of a sense of what is, the reason why I set up the Down the Rabbit Hole podcast, so that you can actually navigate that landscape with me. I mean, there will be stuff that I don't know, and I confess that, and I really want to find out more, because it presents ideas and opportunities for all of you out there, whether you're an individual just interested in the technology, or somebody that's in a corporate that is being tasked with the idea of getting close to this technology, or you as an entrepreneur. There are opportunities out there just waiting for you if you can actually understand what is going on, where this tech is going, and how you can actually make money from it. And that's one of the key things that is coming out of the conversations I'm having with people about how do you actually get a return on the investment for the actual technology. Corporates are not adopting blockchain as quickly as everybody would love it. The reality is, over the past 18 months or so, I've seen what I term as the 4 Ps, where the technology is being used for a proof of concept, a prototype, maybe limited pilots, and then the puffing up of chest. There's been a lot of that around where people are saying, look, we're in the blockchain, aren't we fantastic? And certainly in 2017, as soon as the word blockchain was mentioned with equities and that type of thing, the prices used to spike. But this year, it's about this sense of realism. And that's where I'm trying to position the first series of Down the Rabbit Hole. So the first season is really going to be about exploring that dynamic and trying to sort of help you guys understand where it is and where it's going. And if you want to understand how you can be involved, as part of the actual episodes, I'm going to do sort of 2-minute explanations of maybe a technical area that have been bothering people, they can't understand. So for example, at conferences where I speak, I often do a 2-minute introduction to what the blockchain is, but in plain English. But it's things like, what are smart contracts? What does consensus mean? So I'm really interested in hearing what areas you're not comfortable with or you don't understand. If you've got any of those sort of observations, just let us know. If you go to downtherabbithole.news in the website there and just put it down as to what any areas that you're a little bit confused about, and we'll, over the course of the series, we'll put in every episode a 2-minute explanation of a particular issue. So at least you can get some understanding what's going on. So look, thank you for getting to the end of this introductory podcast. I mean, it is just to try and give you a bit of a feel and the shape of what's actually coming up. But, we've got some great people lined up that are coming on in the episodes. We've been talking to Heath Benke, who's a key institutional funder who's now gone out on his own to set up a digital transformation fund. We're talking to Michael Pacina from one of the major law firms here in Australia, together with a guy called Phil Shelper, who's linked into loyalty, both talking about loyalty and how the loyalty industry is approaching this. And we've got lots of others that we've got interviews lined up so that we can actually just make this accessible to you and to make it as easy as possible for you guys to understand. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. But, please do subscribe. We are launching on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify. So, we're very, very keen to work with you guys. And if there's any comments, observations you have, just let us know. Constantly keen to improve the offering that we have. So in the meantime, I'll sign off right now and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks. In the next episode, I'll be talking to Nathan Spataro, co-founder of Secure.vote. With the US midterms having been recently completed, there has been some highly publicized political rhetoric about fraudulent voting. Is this real? Can blockchain technology solve this problem? And how about other countries where dictators cloud voting in secrecy, where there is a genuine fear about declaring who you voted for? Can this be resolved using blockchain technology? Find out more in the next episode as we continue on our journey down the rabbit hole.